All right, guys, welcome back. We're doing another install on the Focus ST. So today we're doing the CV fabrication downpipe. This is the high flow catted downpipe for the Focus ST 2013 and up. That features a 400 cell catalytic converter. It also comes with your mounting hardware, adapter to stock cat back, as well as a gasket, warm up procedure for the cat and everything. It was packaged super nicely. Has an extra bung. If you do have an aftermarket air-fuel ratio gauge, like an AEM or an Innovate, it's got that wideband bung for you, so you don't have to go weld an extra bung on your downpipe if you are looking to monitor your AFRs with an aftermarket gauge solution. So this is honestly one of the best bang for buck setups on the market. I don't think anything catted is quite built to this quality and at this price point from what I've seen. So, you know, the welds are really nice, the packaging's nice, it's readily available. They've got these little stoppers on the mounting arms on the bottom. It's a common problem that these will go through the downpipe bracket and actually rub on the subframe, and they give you a really bad rattle. So just small little things like that. Ultimately, one of the big improvements from the stock downpipe to an aftermarket downpipe is just this neck that goes into the catalytic converter. You'll see on the stock when we pull out, it's very small and restrictive. This opens up for a lot more flow. It should give us some more throttle response, probably allow us to make just a little bit more power. You know, you're not gonna see 30 more horsepower out of a downpipe. All full bolt-ons put together, you know, things start to add up, and these are required to really push the power potential if you do plan on going to a big turbo setup. So for sound purposes, you know, you will expect to get a little bit louder with going to an aftermarket downpipe compared to the stock downpipe. With my car currently, I've got the stock downpipe on it with an AWE track exhaust. So this is a super common setup for the Focus ST platform, pretty tame with a stock downpipe. So we're gonna see exactly how loud it makes it. We're gonna get Nick in here and go ahead and get this installed. He'll show you exactly how to do it step by step and then give you some results.
All right, you guys, Nick with Graveyard Performance here. Today we're gonna be going over how to install the CVF downpipe into a Focus ST on Alex's car. To go over a quick recap of what you're gonna need for this install, you will need a 10 mil to be able to get your exhaust hanger, a 15 mil to get the bracing that goes under the exhaust and downpipe, and then a 13 mil to get the actual downpipe V-band clamp off. I do have a hammer here as well as a pry bar. We'll go over what those are used for when we're actually under the car and getting it done. And then of course you're gonna want some type of you know, drill or something to make this quicker for you. So let's go ahead, get started and get this thing on. All right, so now that we're under the car, you're gonna see that this is that kind of mid-chassis brace that we're talking about. This is gonna be 15 millimeters here. We have our two 10 millimeter bolts here, and then from there, we're just gonna move up to the front, get the V-band clamp off, pull it down the downpipe, and then we can disconnect the O2 sensors, pull everything out as an entire unit. It is gonna be pretty straightforward. The biggest part's gonna be trying to get those sensors unhooked, which we'll kind of go over that in a second, and that's where the pry bar comes in. So for now, we'll get this going. Get this section off. To make life just a hair easier, I like to go through and not completely undo this bolt and just swing it out of the way. Now we have access to this exhaust hanger. Like I said, this is just two 10 mils, so we'll go ahead, get this disconnected from here, and then we'll work our way up front to the V-band clamp. Now, for those of you that are doing this job, personally, I really like the factory exhaust hanger. It's really easy to get on, easy to take off. It's quick, keeps the job pretty simple and efficient. Do also sell a Torque Solutions hard polyurethane exhaust hanger that you can purchase from us with the downpipe. That is as a bundle as well. So that's always an option for you guys if you're looking just to do upgrades while you're here. Obviously, your exhaust is one thing, but this exhaust hanger is another. Depending on which exhaust you have, the sizing for your exhaust to downpipe bolts are going to be different. These ones I believe are 13s on both sides, maybe 13 and 14. So we're gonna go ahead, get the exhaust disconnected, and then from there, we'll move over to the downpipe clamp. Now to the V-band clamp. For this, we're gonna need a 13 and an extension, a pretty long one. All right, you guys, so the next portion of this, we need to take off this V-band clamp to be able to disconnect it from the turbocharger. You will notice that there is basically just a perfect angle straight down between the half shaft and this hot side charge pipe. Usually there is going to be another bracket that's connected to your rear motor mount. If you have an aftermarket rear motor mount and you didn't reconnect that piece, then obviously it'll be there and you'll need to remove that. It can be a little bit of a pain, but nothing too crazy. So we're just gonna go ahead, get this V-band clamp off, loosen it up. Occasionally it will stick, so we'll probably need to grab the hammer out and tap it a few times, but here we go. All right, you guys, so on his actual downpipe clamp, we do definitely recommend getting a new unit just in case. As you can see here, up here, it's very common to pop out of that sleeve. It'll bend that tab up and pop out. With these older rusty cars, you can also end up breaking the head off of this. So obviously we just took a screwdriver, popped that out, and now it's gonna allow us to take off the actual V-band. But you definitely wanna make sure you have an extra one on hand just in case this does happen. It is good, just peace of mind to have those parts. So we're gonna pop this V-band off and then work on getting the O2 sensors going. From there, we'll be able to swap it out, get this bad boy on its way. Took a pry bar just right in between the V-band clamp and the turbine V-band. Went ahead and just popped that off to loosen it up. So now this downpipe is ready to come out. So from here, just gonna give it a good wiggle, and now it's off the turbo. At this point, we need to make our way into getting the downpipe out and just kind of pulling it down a little bit. So that way we have room to access our O2 sensor plugs, clips, yada yada. So exhaust is going to be in the way. You don't need to remove it. It'll make things easier, but it's about sixes in the amount of time that it's going to take to actually get this stuff off. So you have a few clips for your downstream O2 sensor. One's going to connect straight to the downpipe. Then you're going to have another one further up on the water coolant line for the turbocharger. And then from there, you'll have two more clips holding the actual connectors in place. All right, so right above the water outlet right here are gonna be your O2 sensors connectors. Now these clip to a little plate there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the pry bar up in there and we're just gonna give them a little wedge, and that's gonna disconnect, well, not disconnect them, but it'll remove them. Loosen up these plastics a little bit. And then we'll be able to get up there, finish pulling them off of that, and then disconnect them, which will also give us room to pull out the downpipe. All right, now that I have gotten those off of the retaining tab up top, this downpipe's gonna be a lot easier to move around and get out. However, we're still not taking it out yet. You need to actually reach up to the top and disconnect the connectors. So these are your two O2 sensor connectors. For the black connector, the release tab is on the top. So it's actually connected to the other portion of the harness. So you have to clip it down and then pull this one down. If you're able to fit two hands in there, great. If not, find something to leverage it on. Now this grayish black tab is going to be for your secondary. This one, you are able to just pinch this tab down until you hear it click and then pull it off, and you'll be able to get that out. Once that's done, we're able to go ahead and wiggle the downpipe out the best that we can without tearing up any of this heat shielding. You want to be careful with these O2 sensor wires to not have them get snagged up or cut on anything. So when you pull the downpipe out, originally it sits like this. You want to kind of rotate it left and right because you're trying to keep these from taking off any material, as well as trying to angle this to make sure it's not hitting your exhaust. For the most part, it should come out pretty easily. Now, one thing you want to make sure is if you're not planning on replacing this, do not lose it or damage it. This is going to be your V-band gasket that'll go here. It'll transfer over to your new unit. We do recommend just replacing these with the V-band as well. Alex isn't doing it, so we're just going to go ahead and swap this over to the other one. Now we'll grab the CVF, transfer over the parts, show you guys that stuff, and go from there. All right, now that you have your downpipe out, you're gonna wanna remove your O2 sensors, swap those over to your CVF catted downpipe. We went ahead, we already broke these loose, so essentially the main thing that we wanna do is to only transfer over one at a time. Well, why? Because a lot of people will get these mixed up, which shouldn't really be a thing, given that these cars have one that's a shorter sensor, or a shorter wire, The other one is longer. Your shorter wire will always go in your top O2. Your longer wire needs to reach further, so it's gonna go in your top O2. But for peace of mind, we just swap them out while we're already here. Another really nice quality about the CVF downpipe is that they actually include a secondary O2 bung. If you guys don't want to run a wideband, you're able to run a wideband with this on top of your factory O2 sensors. Just make sure that you tighten these up because they do not come pre-tightened. One will fall out, you'll have a massive exhaust leak. So we're gonna go ahead and install these, and we'll get it going. All right, so for those of you that need a part number for this V-band clamp, I'm gonna give it to you. If you order it from Ford, it looks like you're gonna be paying about $56. You are gonna be Charlie, Victor, 6, Z as in Zulu, 5, Alpha, 231, Charlie. That is your part number for this clamp. Thank you, Alex, for having the invoice on deck. So now that we've gotten everything in here and tight, put your fire ring back onto the CVF downpipe. It's gonna be a little bit of a snug fit, which is good. That's what we want. And we toss it back in. This has a much smaller catalyst, so you're going to be able to actually get this in with some ease. The big difference as well is that the CVF has marks for this. If you're still running that mount that we were talking about off of the rear motor mount that connects to your downpipe, they did supply a mount for that as well that's connected to the downpipe. We don't reuse them. You can. It's up to you. To give you guys a better visualization of what happens when you're removing this downpipe clamp is that the little T-bolt here, you've got a bend up here. Ford does not bend that down. It's essentially made so that way you can just pop it up, pop it out, and drop it down. Obviously, ours was seized. We weren't able to loosen it enough to pop it up, so it ended up breaking. What we like to do with these new ones, that's gonna lock in this T into this, so that way you don't run into stripping it out or having to deal with it popping up, is we just take this and we just clamp it down, close it on there. Voila. So now, when we go to put this in, it's not gonna fall out, it's not gonna come out. It's good to go, and we'll be able to get this around and secured. The rest of this part's pretty straightforward. Go in reverse steps of when we took the downpipe out. All right, so what we're gonna do is essentially slide this back up. Same thing, try to avoid any sharp metal objects around your O2 sensors. And like I said, this one's gonna go in a lot easier once you get it in. Now, once you get it up to about this point, I f***ed up. All right, now that we have the downpipe up to about right here, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. You want these edges here protruding out towards the back of the car, so that way this sits flat, surfaced up against the mount. So we're just gonna slide these in real quick. Now that your mount is on, I need to reinstall our fire ring because they will pop off just a hair if you're not careful. Now that we have the downpipe facing upwards so the fire ring doesn't come off, we're gonna go ahead and reconnect these clamps. YouTube, this is Jonah, YouTube. So now when you're doing this downpipe clamp, you really wanna make sure that you're getting an even surface between the downpipe and the turbo all the way around. This will make it much easier for you to install this clamp. Okay. Just like that, your downpipe is installed, you're ready to go. There is a warm-up procedure from CVF. They do include those instructions. We'll go through, put together our exhaust back on here, and then we're all set and ready to go. So if you guys have any questions on this install, feel free to reach out to us. Again, we do sell these CVFab catted downpipes for the Focus ST. Make sure you put all your bolts together, tighten everything down, and make sure you actually connect your O2 sensors until they click. Aside from that, that's about it for the video. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, grab some merch. Most of all, have a stellar weekend.
All right, guys, so we got the CV fabrication downpipe on the ST. As you might be able to tell by some of those sound clips, we are seeing a little bit louder of an exhaust note, a little bit deeper. It's not raspy at all. So I think this high flow cat really helps tone down that rasp that you typically get on a fully catless setup on these cars. So if you're looking to get a louder exhaust setup without getting that super raspy exhaust note that a lot of these Focus STs have, this is a great option for you. So don't forget to head over to our site and you can take advantage of 10% off all of CV Fabrication's products all month long this April. You can also hit up a rep directly and get that hookup as well. So, you know, if you're looking for parts for your Focus ST, I definitely recommend any of their parts that they make for the car. You can also pick up some of our merch, and don't forget to comment, like, subscribe.